This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. I was a Canon fanboy for decades. And then I wasn't. But what about now? Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and welcome to our second video of 2026, the first episode in a new series dedicated to the Canon R6 III. No talk of specifications allowed. Maybe one or two. Today, I want to tell you a tale of why I've just spent my own hard cash on an R6 Mark III, and why I'm keeping it, unlike the R7 I bought in 2022 and returned a week or three later. You may find yourself nodding appreciatively, maybe seeing a bit of yourself in it, maybe finding yourself chuckling every now and again, or disagreeing with me, which is fine too. All grist for the mill, all useful, I hope, in helping you sharpen your decision-making process, or just enjoying a welcome distraction from all the mishigas happening around us. So, let's start here. No snark, no flame, just real curiosity and candor. This R6 III is the first Canon camera I'm not returning or selling shortly thereafter since buying a Canon 5D Mark II in early 2009. Even though the 5D Mark II was a great camera for most of the next 6 years, revelatory at that, I ended up selling it and the pile of EF glass I'd amassed over a couple of decades in 2015, never mind the FL, FD, and all the rest of it. I think it important to tell you that to that point, I'd been pretty much shooting exclusively with Canon for almost half a century. Beginning with my first real camera in 1967 when I was all of 10 years old, Canon's interchangeable lens 35mm film FTQL. The difference between men and boys being the price of their toys, right? Not quite. There were, often, real reasons for upgrading. First to interchangeable lenses, next interchangeable screens and finders, which turned out not to be important at all because it's really too small to look down as a waist-level finder. Eventually auto exposure, useful. Autofocus, critical the way I shoot once we had children. Digital, higher resolution digital, higher functioning digital as my ambition grew. You get the idea, and the speed of the feedback loop. Incredible. So, what changed? Video. Once I'd retired and had the time to learn about YouTube and have the ability to shoot and edit video digitally at a level of futzing I could tolerate courtesy of that 5D Mark II, a new chapter of my life beckoned. That's not dramatic, that's the truth. But as I moved from curiosity toward passion and then month in, month out video production, it became clear, after first trading down to a pair of Rebel SL1s at the beginning of 2014, that any DSLR was the wrong tool for the job. It was time to go mirrorless. At that point, I looked at Panasonic's GH4, Sony's A7, A7S, A7R, their dedicated video-only FS7 on the one hand, a GoPro on the other, but by the end of 2014, I'd switched to Sony's 24-megapixel APS-C A6000, for which I paid all of $448, I you not, a better video and stills camera than either the 5D Mark II or Canon's APS-C 7D Mark II, not only for resolution, size, weight, and value, but for operational speed, burst rates, and autofocus. I liked it so much, I was so impressed that it led me to sell my Leica M8 too. The irony is that the 5D Mark II convinced me video filmmaking could become part of my future, as it clearly has. But its limitations were also why I left it behind. I changed faster than the company's product offerings did. And I went cold turkey over the next decade as far as Canon was concerned, as Canon proved time and again that it had become something other than what I'd grown up with. No longer the cutting edge, no longer the company that other companies followed. Instead, it was becoming self-satisfied and optimized for shareholder returns. Again, truly, no snark, but a candid recognition of how I felt about the brand. So, the R6 Mark III, huh? Here's what pushed me over the edge on the R6 III. 1. I think the R6 Mark III is the first Canon full-frame mirrorless ILC that is finally, truly, and fully competitive in its segment, not only on the basis of function, but price. No Canon tax on this one. In fact, the R6 Mark III is $100 less than Sony's A7 IV, $400 less than Panasonic's Lumix S1 II, just $100 more than the Nikon Z6 III at that camera's launch, but now, as a recording in January 2026, $700 more expensive than the Nikon, making the Z6 III, I think, a steal in the segment. But I also think all four of these cameras are appropriately priced, which is not the same thing as saying appropriately priced for you. Only you can decide what works for you and what doesn't. In any case, parity is not the primary reason I ponied up for the R6 III. 2. What the R6 III does better than what we have isn't why I bought it either, because what we do have is better for what we do and how we do it than the R6 III. 3. What we have is also better for what we do and how we do it than the R5 Mark II, so why spend the extra money, especially when the R6 III is more than $1,000 less? That difference in price was a secondary consideration. Invest our money, yes. Spend it unnecessarily? Nuh-uh. No, the primary reason I bought the R6 Mark III, how's this for a kick in the head, is that I needed a body for their simultaneously announced $469 RF 45 1.2, the result of a unique mix of curiosity, humility, and fear. Curiosity, because not only is the 45 1.2 the first RF lens I find interesting, but because I think it's actually the bigger story. Is this lens a breakthrough for the company? Either by design or happenstance, a proof of concept and a potential inflection point for Canon's imaging business. How good is it really? How good does it need to be? Humility, because I don't know what I don't know, and fear, I'm being honest with myself, because I wanted to make sure that my take on Canon hasn't so ossified over the years that I might miss a fundamental shift in the company's direction. That would be bad. Now, as I suggested at the outset, I am not going to regurgitate specs or offer a detailed spec comparison of the R6 III to the competition. I've already asserted it has achieved functional and price parity with the competition. And those details have already been covered extensively since its launch 2 months ago. If you haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, I'd suggest starting with the review by our friends Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake over at Petapixel. If you want a detailed review of how the camera operates, I suggest you start with our friend Michael the Maven's free, more than 3-hour-long video on it. He does a great job. Instead, I want to share with you how the camera feels in hand, essentially identical to the Mark II, which I assert, along with small details rather than headline specs, is the real basis for selecting one camera over the other these days. Or just how it looks, or who makes it. Except for one other thing, hold that thought. I'll start with this. The R6 III's biodynamic industrial design, spearheaded by Luigi Colani and first appearing in the Canon T90 of 1986, I think has aged exceptionally well. Canon EOS cameras have always had a unique aesthetic and feel in hand, but the ergonomic gains of the R6 Marks II and III since the launch of the original, not quite ready for primetime R, are notable and worthwhile. A. The joystick, which replaced the unlamented multifunction bar of the R, is almost perfectly located and offers excellent feedback. B. The on-off switch is now on the right top plate rather than the left, making it accessible while one-handing the camera. Hold that thought too. And C, a dedicated physical switch for stills and video now sits on the left top plate where the R's on-off switch used to be. No more top plate LCD. Oh well. As for the menu, for years, Canon's menu has looked more finished to my eye than those of other mass-market manufacturers, and has offered, I think it's fair to say, a fuller touch implementation. But the advanced user manual for the R6 Mark III is over 1,100 pages. How many pages do you think would be necessary to figure out this? Film speed, shutter speed, aperture, focus, loading film, advancing film, rewinding film, done. Oh, depth of field preview and flash. Not that most modern cameras manuals aren't in the same ballpark of utterly absurd. You may consider everything I've noted thus far as niggles, but I'll reiterate that I think these are the kinds of things that matter now more than headline specs. I'm always looking to shorten the distance between intent and execution. I actually always do this. And an 1,100-plus page manual ain't it. Neither, actually, is a menu system clearly designed from the electronics out rather than from the user in. That is, from the engineers. Look, we can do this. Where do we put it in the menu? Rather than from photographers and videographers' perspectives. Don't make simple things complicated, but do give us complicated things for you that make things simple for us. Not that the menu systems of Sony, Nikon, and Panasonic, Fujifilm, and OM are, while we're at it, radically different. Although, I rate the organization of Panasonic's menu system and Ergo's first among mass-market manufacturers by a good measure. And B, well, Leica's and Hasselblad's menus and Ergo's and build quality in my book are absolutely next level compared to everyone else's. Setting menus and manuals aside, let's move on to the other ways I think the R6 III can be improved given Hugh's hierarchy of needs. A, yes, the on-off switch is better located than it was on the original R, but it is still awkward compared to an on-off switch concentrically located with the shutter release, like the one found on the A7 IV, and I'm constantly turning it on and off to conserve battery life, even though battery life is excellent. Small things like that, constantly in use, can be a problem. And as far as the battery is concerned, old habits die hard. The battery's excellent on the R6 Mark III. B, the default functioning of the lens's customizable control ring when set for aperture control, the way it should be, don't get me started, is to do nothing until the shutter is half rest and held half rest. This is, once again in my book, an extra step that increases the distance between intent and execution. I think Sony and Panasonic do it better, Panasonic best of all for the entire industry, not only with real-time exposure preview, but real-time simulated depth of field preview. I think that's fantastic if you're a precise shooter like I am. C, the default functioning of the rear control wheel in manual mode in place of the control ring is also unwieldy. It requires repositioning one's hand further from the body, leading to a more tenuous grasp of it. I think the competition does it better. D, it is also the case that the rear control wheel can do only one thing, turn, and this reduces its utility. Again, I think the competition does it better. E, rear screen articulation could be improved. When I use a camera for video here in the Batcave, which is just about every week, a flippy screen is fine when I come around to the back of the camera, but it's simply the wrong tool otherwise. Too far away when I'm in front of the camera, like right now, blocked in any case by the prompter. I rely instead on a full-sized HDMI port and a splitter for 2 monitors, a 5-inch Shinobi right here just out of frame for touch camera control, and a 27-inch 4K monitor for critical framing, precise depth of field evaluation, and ease in evaluating continuous autofocus performance when we're testing for it right there. For video work on location, either for interviews or gimbal work, we rely on the Shinobi 2 again for better visibility, legibility, and easier access to assists. When it comes to photography, I prefer a tilting rear screen over a flippy one, shortening the distance, again, for me, between intent and execution. I think the Sony and Panasonic four-way implementations are the best compromise out there, but what I like most of all for photography is Fujifilm's approach on the GFX series, a horizontal and vertical tilting screen courtesy of an additional single-axis hinge from the right, allowing much faster, low-angle, and less obtrusive vertical shots. The details of usability matter, especially now I'm at the age where I can't bend, although who's kidding who, I've never been able to bend. As for functionality, horses for courses. Sure, there are differences among these cameras, but I think it's important to say this out loud. For 98% of us, 99% of the time, those functional headline spec differences will be either irrelevant or undiscernible. Same when used at looking at predecessor models. 6K or 8K versus 4K, only meaningful for people who don't get the frame rate at capture because they brought the wrong lenses, or else record with intention to build in maneuvering room for editors in post. That's completely legitimate in my book. 33 megapixels versus 24? Other than for pixel peeping, how many of us print large enough and often enough for this to matter, especially in a rapidly evolving era of AI upresing? Thermal management issues at 4K 60 frames per second? How many of us do long-form recording like that? How often? And if you do, why? Then again, lack of shutter angle, a tiny detail, makes a big difference to me personally because I switch back and forth among 2398, 60, and 95 frames per second several times per month for YouTube recording, and in the heat of getting out multiple videos every month as a one-man band, shutter angle prevents me from making stupid mistakes which I would do otherwise all the time. Another detail that makes a big difference to me, like too many other cameras out there, Panasonic, the lone beacon of sanity otherwise, the R6 III has still not revealed to me how I can set up the rear screen and an external monitor the way I want to when shooting video. Maybe I'll figure it out someday. But spending an hour scouring YouTube videos and prompting ChatGPT did not get me to an actionable answer. Yokunai. Nicht gut. Although, hey, if you know how to do it easily, that is, present info on the external monitor while not blanking out the rear monitor, please let me know. What else? I like the pair of USB-C ports found on the A7 IV, good for long-form interviews and or streaming, and I do wish other companies, including Canon, would follow suit. And at a moment when social media, including YouTube, has suddenly opened the floodgates to AI-generated content without meaningful regard for its authenticity, veracity, or original thought, I think it incumbent upon all camera manufacturers to make content authentication for video as well as stills a very high priority. But, I think, once again, your mileage may vary, and that's fine. Canon's greatest weakness since the launch of its mirrorless RF mount, that one other thought I asked you to hold, continues to be its lens ecosystem. I think it fair to assert that by closing its lens mount to independent lens manufacturers, A, Canon has prioritized insulating itself from competition, producing lenses it wants to sell rather than what its customers might want or need, and, in doing so, B, inured its customers to a world in which they either overpay for what they're getting or simply do without. There's no denying Canon's Holy Trinity RF zooms are excellent, but they are simply no longer compelling the way they were back in the early days of the EF mount. Today, they are generally bigger, heavier, and or more expensive than those from Sony, Nikon, Panasonic, Sigma, Viltrox, Tamron, Tokina, Rokinon, Samyang, Laowa, you get the idea. Canon lenses are in the same league optically of the best among them, but neither dramatically better nor worse. Other manufacturers have been putting far more care into their lenses and pricing of them rather than optimizing for income alone. In the lexicon of the old Boston Consulting Group, Spots and Dots Matrix, I also think it fair to assert that Canon is now milking its cash cows rather than investing in its rising stars. Ditto Canon's super telephotos, once the unrivaled envy of pro sports and wildlife photographers beginning in the late 80s. Fact is, the latest long glass from Sigma in particular, think 500 5.6 and 300 600 f4, suddenly make long Canon glass look spectacularly overpriced. Sony and Nikon caught up to Canon in this space years ago, but they still charge first-party prices too. Ditto Canon's primes. Canon simply has no good answer in my book to Nikon's f1.8s primes, Panasonic's 1.8s primes, Sony's 1.4 G Master primes, Sigma's 2.8 I-series primes, and 1.4 DG Art primes. No answer to Leica's industry-standard Apo-Summicron SL f2 primes, Viltrox's crazy good, crazy inexpensive Mongo big and heavy, Voigtlander's best electrical contact manual focus primes. No answer to newer names on the list like TT Artisan, Thypoc either. Of course, in the end, Canon isn't forcing anyone to do anything. The more accurately considered locus of control isn't the company at all. It lies with the customer. It lies with us. So, how good is the 45? Well, this is just part one, first impressions, and because what's important is how this lens performs in the real world, I'll keep it short for today. By the way, that's Baby Gigantor over there. Got him in Tokyo last month. First, when it comes to video in a controlled environment, and this is real world for us, I think lens resolution is great for 4K video. You're looking at it right now because, of course, you saw this coming. This entire episode is being recorded on the R6 III with the 45 1.2 set to my usual f4. Autofocus, a different matter. Yes, it's quiet and smooth, but it is slow, even when set to maximum speed and responsiveness. Mounted on the R6 III, I don't think it's good enough for what Sony coins product showcase, and this matters for what we do, but do you think? I mean, it works. Pretty smooth, right? Focus breathing is present when uncorrected, but Canon's breathing control helps. Look at my head, look in the background. I think it's good. I think photography is where this lens will succeed or fail. I'll skip my usual near minimum focus distance testing because there are a number of YouTube channels who've already done an excellent job for that sort of thing. Although I don't know any of them personally, if you haven't seen them, I'd suggest you start by checking out Christopher Frost's channel and the results he got with this lens, as well as his reviews of lenses in the ballpark, like the Sigma 45 2.8, Sony 40 2.5, Nikon Z40 f2, Voigtlander 40 1.2, Viltrox 40 2.5, and Canon's own 35 and 50 RF 1.8 STMs. As I've said a number of times now, I want to give camera and lens their due at a pace that works for me, which means I will be bringing them out onto the streets of New York. Things are a little bit crazy right now. A couple of days ago, I had Claudia do another simple headshot here in the Batcave, and this is where things get interesting. Against a $900 Voigtlander 51.0, $1,900 Sigma 135 1.4, shot on a sensor with almost twice the megapixel count, yes, I see chromatic aberration from the 45 1.2, but even at the lower sensor resolution of the R6 III, I have to say once again, in the center where it counts, it's sharp.
What tomorrow knows, a dream is just a note.
But here's the question. Chromatic aberration, edge sharpness, field curvature, they're there. Will you or anyone else notice these things at anything approaching actual image size and viewing distance? Even if you do, or they do, at this price, do you care? I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other, and I don't have the answer. I'm curious, and I'd love to read your comments in the section down below. Then again, once again, I think it's fair to assert that the 45 1.2 offers a higher hit rate courtesy of even slow autofocus than what Claudia and I can manage consistently with a manual focus 1.2 or 1.0 set to 1.2, but not a perfect hit rate. I was taken aback that the first few shots by Claudia all missed with IAF. When we switched the camera to pinpoint autofocus, it worked better still, not 100% and below my expectations. I'll have another go at this myself next time. The thing I'm really unsure of when it comes to the RF 45 1.2's autofocus, and the first thing I want to test when we're out on the street, is it fast enough at 5.6 for my kind of street work? TBD, to be determined. I'll wrap it up this way for today. On first blush, not only has Canon achieved parity in the mid-tier segment of mirrorless ILCs, but with the arrival of the RF 45 1.2, a precisely considered set of trade-offs different from what Canon has offered previously, color me intrigued. I really do look forward to shooting this combo in anger over the coming months. The question I've been asking myself in the course of writing this first episode, however, the one I haven't shared with you until now, is this. If I could buy only one camera for everything I do, if Claudia could buy only one camera for everything she does, would it be the R6 III? I already have the answer. No. Even though, by the way, to anyone who's been around for more than a couple of years, the R6 III is mid-tier in name only. All of today's mid-tier full-frame mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras do things the highest-end cameras, taken in toto, couldn't do even 5 years ago. Second, would it be the higher performance R5 Mark II? No, not today. Not as things stand. The reason in both cases is the same. 1. There are better compromises for what we do and how we do it, even if we could have only one. The Sony a7R5 would be at the top of that list, with Panasonic's Lumix S1R2 close behind. That's why we use both of them. 2. For now, the RF lens ecosystem remains Canon's Achilles heel. It's too limited, either overpriced or underperformant at the price. I know underperformant is not a generally recognized word, but you get the idea, and I like neologisms. This is because Canon is unique among mass-market camera companies. It is the only one who says, without saying it, if you want our cameras, which have great autofocus, by the way, you have to buy our lenses to get it. Not even Leica does that. $2,300 for Canon's excellent 900-gram RF 24-72.8, or just about half of that, $1,300 for Sigma's just as excellent optically and from a build quality perspective 735-gram 24-72.8 DGDN2 Art. $14,500 for Canon's legendary 3.1 kilo RF 600 f4, or 1/4 the price, $3,300 for Sigma's, yes, 100 millimeters shorter, and yes, one stop slower, freaking incredible at any price, 1.4 kilo 500 5.6.
Yeah, go get it. If I want it, then I go get it. Yeah, no limit. If I want it, then I go get it. Yeah, go get it. If I want it, then I go get it. Look, no limits.
Just saying. But what do I know? Actually, I do know this. Armchair quarterback, second guessing, that's easy. Making multi-billion-dollar decisions and living with the consequences, that's f***ing hard. Next episode, all of this aside, what I learned shooting with the R6 III and the 45 1.2 in the real world. Yeah, this video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code HUGH at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comments section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost You affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.